Okay, guys, so I'll make this video short and quick because I've been getting a lot of messages from students as to, the way forward for preparing for the alternative to practical paper, which is your ATP paper, right? And it's the easiest paper out of all the three papers, although some might not agree with me. But trust me, after you're done watching this video, you will realize how easy it is. And that's the reason why it has the least weightage, the lowest weightage out of all the three papers that you appear for, right? The theory, MCQ, and the ATP. Now, what is the best way to go about your ATP paper? First of all, you need to have a clear and conceptual understanding of the experiments which are a part of your course, right? And I highlight them for you. So you go through your course and you realize that, you need to know separation techniques, you need to know distillation, fractional distillation, chromatography, and whatnot. You need to know titration, you need to know how to calculate the rate of reaction, how do you plan an experiment to do that. You need to know how to figure out the temperature change in a particular reaction, and these are a few experiments which you should know how to navigate through as far as your syllabus is concerned. Electrolysis, how do you perform electroplating, how do you extract iron, how do you, because some of these may not have been tested up until this point, but these are all the experiments which can come for planning, right? Which is effectively your question number 4, right? Now it's a very set pattern because the examiner has to stay within the boundaries of the syllabus and test you with these experiments with this paper, effectively the alternative to practical paper. Now, what should you expect and how should you go about it? It's very simple and it's very easy. The first thing you need to understand is that practice, 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 practice makes perfect in an alternative to practical paper, and try to understand the question rather than just, going skimming through the question and going towards solving the question and just going back and forth between the marking scheme and the question. So that's not an effective way of going about it. You need to properly read the question and, highlight points which are given to you inside the question so that you can, click them during the paper. Now, you're tested with 4 questions. Normally you have 4 questions. Question number 1 is either going to be for separation techniques. You're just going to be asked to separate a few things and whatnot, chromatography, simple distillation, fractional distillation, and whatnot. Or it's going to be, identifying the apparatus, right? What is a crucible? He's going to give you an apparatus, and you'll have to maybe even, label them, that this apparatus is a tripod, this apparatus is a crucible, that's a mortar and pestle, and and so on and so forth, right? So that's what question number 1 will largely revolve around. It's going to be precautions, your separation techniques, or it's going to be, the identification of apparatus. So you need to be crystal clear about apparatus and what they're used for. And there are apparatus which are given in your syllabus, like crucible, like mortar and pestle, like tripod, like Bunsen burner, and so on and so forth. You could check your syllabus out for question number 1 as the easiest question, right? Then question number 2 has multiple options, right? So he can either test you with titration. Don't you take your chances. Oh, there's a reaction, but don't take your chances and don't test your luck by going with probability. Okay, hey, question number 2 can have 3 questions, so I'll not just prepare 1 question and then, maybe it won't come. Don't go with your luck. It's very easy. I've even uploaded the difficult one, which is titration. I've uploaded a proper video for that, and you guys can go through it, and it'll be very, very helpful, right? So question number 2 has 3 types of questions that the examiner, has to stay within the boundaries and ask you that question. One can either be question number 2 can either part A, matlab, one of the experiments that could be tested in question number 2 is going to be titration. It's either titration, it's going to be 14, 15 marks, probably even at some times, it can even be 20 marks and whatnot, but it can either be titration, it could be rate of reaction, in which you're asked to draw curves and graphs, and you need to know your rate of reaction theory, and you need to know that how do you figure out the what happens when the collisions increase, when the surface area increases, decreases, when a catalyst is added, when the temperature increases, what happens to the rate of reaction? Because practically he'll be asking you to perform the experiment, but if you don't know the theory behind it, it's going to be very difficult to navigate your way through all the parts, right? So it's the question number 2. Second choice could either be rate of reaction, And the third choice and the last choice could be temperature change, right? So mostly these three are highly probable. Out of these three, the examiner is going to ask one of the questions. You can go on throughout the syllabus. Question number two is either titration, or its rate of reaction, or its temperature change, figuring out the temperature change. It's roughly related to rate of reaction and whatnot, but it's more towards the uh, you know it's more towards the chemical energetic side. You use a polystyrene cup, you need to know the precautions, and how do you actually perform the experiment of these three experiments, of these three questions, because you'll realize that if you don't know precautions, if you don't know things that you need to be careful for, or the theory behind it, these are all the things which are tested in ATP, especially precautions and errors and whatnot. So you need to have a thorough understanding of these three questions, right? Of these three experiments. Now, question three is a pet question for salt analysis. I've also uploaded a video for that onto YouTube, and hopefully after you're done with that, you'll easily be able to navigate your way through it. And then question number four has multiple options, and even the examiner can test something new as long as he gives you enough information. So the key to solving an ATP paper is to read the question carefully, because the question in itself contains the answer. If you read it carefully and use logical reasoning, you'll easily navigate your way towards the answer, right? And you'll ace it, inshallah, hopefully. But question number four has multiple options. It can either be salt preparation, you'll be required to prepare a salt, and for that you need to know your acid base theory, you need to know the solubility rules, what are soluble salts, what are insoluble salts, what are soluble salts of group 1 and ammonium, how do you prepare an insoluble salts, what are the steps, what are the precautions, not precautions necessarily because it's question number 4, but how do you prepare an insoluble salt, how do you prepare a soluble salt of group 1 or ammonium salt, or how do you prepare other salts, other soluble salts, other than group 1 or ammonium salt. So you need to know your salt theory, and it'll take you 15 minutes to revise that. If you don't know it, you're just taking your chance on losing 6 marks and whatnot. So be careful. So it can either be this, it can either be figuring out the solubility of something, how soluble a substance is in hot water, cold water, whatnot. That experiment could be tested. He could test electroplating, he can test. So he has a vast, majority of things that he could give you multiple things which are insoluble, multiple solutes which are insoluble in certain solvents and soluble in certain solvents. You'll have to figure out, when to add water and then filter it out, and when to add the other solvent and filter it out, and how do you get the fifth type of question could be, about finding percentage composition by mass of a particular substance in a mixture or whatnot, and again the solubility would, adding water, when to add water, when not to add it. So for now, if you have not had any practice for ATP, my words may seem gibberish to you, but if you go to your paper, now this is how you need to go about your paper. If you go and start solving yearly ATP, I would only recommend to solve the recent alternative to practical papers, yearly basis. So you could solve the recent ATP papers year by year, do like 2 3 ATP papers for like year wise, so that you like the complete paper, so that you have an understanding of where you stand as far as the entire paper is concerned, and how to tackle the entire paper and make sure that you finish it in time, right? So that's why you just need to do 1 or 2 or 3 yearlies probably, and if you've done that, that's no problem. The second way is that either if you have my booklet, if you've purchased my ATP booklet, as well as the marking, the booklet I think is free, but the marking scheme needs to be purchased. But if you just purchased, the booklet, it has topic wise questions. I've segregated all the questions topic wise. So I'd recommend going over the questions topic wise. So start with question number, 2, or maybe question number 3, or maybe question number 4, and then go to question 1. But do the same question number 2 over and over again until you become confident. I'll just take you maybe 5 6 7 questions at max, right? So do 4 5 6 questions, and once you become comfortable, move on to question 3. Once you become comfortable with question 3, move on to question 4, and once you become comfortable with question 4, move on to question 1, and whatnot. And this shall do the job. And if you don't have my booklet, or if you've not purchased the marking scheme for my booklet, it's absolutely okay. Take your yearly booklet, whichever booklets you're using, take your yearly papers and just solve question number twos. And then after you're done with question two, just solve question number threes and just solve question number four. So do the same type of question over and over again from multiple years so that you understand the variation and you also have a pattern recognition building up in your brain. So I think this is one of the best ATP tips video that you'll be watching right now at this point. And trust me, it will do the job. I've got students who scored distinctions, and the way they used to go about ATP was the same, the way they used to go about this alternative to private. Because in Pakistan, unfortunately, a lot of teachers, I've always been saying this, but a lot of schools, they just mint money. It's a profitable, it's a business based on profit, and the concept of businesses is just profit maximization, and nowadays it's called asset multiplication and whatnot. But realize that teachers should have done all these experiments with you in class. Unfortunately, I don't teach in any schools, but there are some good teachers who do such experiments in class and gives you the practical understanding of it. But even if you've not done it, this will be the best way to prepare for the ATP exam. So I think that should do the job. And I have uploaded titration questions. I have uploaded the salt analysis questions. I think these were the two most difficult questions for students. I've also uploaded a few planning experiments. But other than this, I'll also try my best to solve the 2025 paper for you guys, 25 February, March paper, which is the ATP. It's in a very rough condition, but I'll try my best to solve that for you and upload it onto YouTube. And then last but not least, sorry, I've just had a very tiring day. But last but not least, I'll also try to solve a few planning questions with you, as well as rate of reaction and whatnot. I'll try my level best to cover them before the actual exam so that it helps each and every one of you, right? So I hope it helps, and I hope these tips are useful. And see you guys in the next bit. Bye bye. Ciao. Allah Hafiz. Bye.